right, what's going on, my freaks and geeks out there? We are the Square Roundtable, and I'm very excited. Today's topic is it hits close to home for me because it's science related. Today, we have such a special guest, man. We have a really special guest. This guy has done what a lot of people in the scientific community try to do. He's transcended genres and mediums with his science. This guy is a robotics engineer and a hell of a artificial intelligence artist. Yeah, man, let's give a warm Square Roundtable welcome to my boy David Atlas.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. And first, can I just start off with a little disclaimer?
Yeah, sure.
Are we okay? Okay. So it's not exactly a disclaimer, but it's like when people go onto my Instagram page, they're immediately greeted with demons everywhere. And for some people, that's like kind of scary. It's like, what is he talking about? Okay, so I want to just clear that up because it's not like super dark or anything. It's just like the demons that people have inside themselves that we're facing all the time.
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
it's just energy, in my opinion. You know, you can do good with that energy, you can do bad with that energy, ultimately, but those demons eat away at everybody. So what I try to do is, when I'm putting out a picture every single day, I try to find something that's sort of relating to my life,
Mm.
and those are the demons that I put into it. And so I'm seeing my own demons.
Wow.
There's that whole pareidolia. You guys familiar with that? Like seeing faces everywhere when you like
Yeah.
they're just
Oh, yeah.
naturally occurring faces. They just happen. In car lights, in trees. But there's a word for that, pareidolia, which I love. I love that word,
That's
and that's
awesome.
what I try to harness with my art. Is like finding those demons and finding like kind of make a story with it. And that's also the whole basis of my art, which is training a neural network with data sets. So a data set can be anything. It could be a bunch of numbers that have to
Hmm.
do with location. It could be a bunch of numbers that have to do with health. They're doing all this stuff with tracking COVID-19 with neural networks right now,
Oh wow.
and yeah, it's incredible. But what I do is I put images into my neural networks, and the only thing that really ties these images together is that it contains a story in each image. So all that is some character doing something. Could be anything. It's so broad, but that's all that really connects this stuff. And so that's what's going into my neural networks, and that's what's going into the demons. And then I can go into, like, there's a big community around these GANs now, so I can go
Mm.
and tap into other people's data sets, mix my weird little story time data sets with faces. They have these, like, people go on Flickr and they've just downloaded thousands of faces. It's called scraping, data scraping.
Data scraping. Okay.
So I can
Oh
just
wow.
mix all these things together now. But anyways, that was too long. But
No, no.
All right.
that's
It's all
my
right.
Nah, you
Cool.
good,
It's
man.
good.
Man, look,
I was
that's what
finna
we
say,
want you to
look,
do.
cut.
Yeah, no, I go on and on. If I'm like, as I told Demetrius last time, I'm kind of like Asperger's spectrum ish in some ways, but you guys can cut me off if I'm rambling or anything.
Nah, you can talk as long as you need to,
Nah,
man.
man.
It's
Uh,
all
I was
good.
say, look, I would say we ain't gotta ask you nothing. You go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, for real, man. Because that's a big part of our podcast. We want to promote science in different areas and categories of it, and especially when it's combined with art. Because from what you do, and just to give some background on how I found out about it, just your imagery, it's aesthetically pleasing, man. So I had no idea about your artificial intelligence program. All I knew was that I liked it. And it really does prove that art, it's something everybody can understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, regardless of where you are as far as science, or if you're into math or whatever, it doesn't matter. But For all our listeners out there on Power 214 and everybody on YouTube, yeah, I found David's work through me and my brother, one of our favorite rock bands, the 1975. And we'll post the music video under our YouTube video. But yeah, they commissioned him for his artwork and his artificial intelligence program for their music video, The End. And it's really really pretty. And one thing I wanted to ask would be, do you control the images that you put into the program? Because when I was watching the video, there were certain things that I saw that were vaguely recognizable. So with those data sets, is it completely random, or do you get to choose specifically what kind of story you want to tell with that?
I wanted to say is it's also art is the most beautiful way to get into coding, everything that you can connect art to. That's like, that's a strong bond that you're forming with whatever you're learning. So that's what I always try to do when people start learning code. I'm like, find some art to make with it. Find something you want to do that's code related that you can, because a lot of you can go to Code Academy, which is a really good resource,
Oh
but
wow.
um, the examples that they give you are it's really hard. It's like math class, it's really hard to have. It's not applicable to you, and
Right.
that teachers have to work on. That's part of teaching. You have to make this stuff applicable to everybody, or more applicable. To me, I couldn't grasp onto anything past like early math stuff. It was just a chore to me always. But
Same.
it doesn't have to be. If you connect it to science, you connect it to art. It's like it's easy and it's fun. It's also what I'm trying to do with all this stuff. Well, I'll show you all my stuff later. But
Definitely.
do you want me to go into the program?
Please do. Yeah, I wanted to
Definitely.
know the
Yeah,
name of the
definitely.
program and
Definitely.
yeah, everything encompassing that. Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mostly what I use now, there are two versions of what I'm going to tell you, but
Okay.
mostly what I do is how I started off doing it, which is a little more hands-on. Requires a little bit more coding. So not for everybody. There's an easier way that's going to come next. That's you can just jump right in. You can start learning everything, and then you can start learning code from that. It's all connected. It's not like there's any part of this that's not connected. So you just got to pick and choose. So I started with TensorFlow, which is put out by Google, and it's this really great program for training neural networks, but it's like low level. It's like you're dealing with these little boxes that represent neurons, and
Oh, that's cool.
you got to train them from the bottom up. So yeah, it's
That's
very
really cool.
interesting. And then how I make my data sets is with Python.
Oh
I
wow.
but
Oh.
that's super easy. It's just, you just get a whole bunch of images. You just
Hmm.
take in a whole bunch of images and crop them to the same size so that a neural network can look at them easily. And that's really all you got to do.
Hmm.
Wow.
That's
I
interesting
love how
because
Chad is like loving this right now.
Oh,
yeah, Chad
I,
was
oh
I
like,
haven't seen
yeah.
I haven't seen him smile this much on a podcast in a while.
Oh, that makes
hey.
me so happy. That makes me so happy. But so that's the first way. That's the TensorFlow method, and definitely very valid way to get into all of this, but it's like you're jumping off a cliff and you got to hope for the best.
All right. Yeah.
You can learn
Yes.
everything from this spot, but it's going to be really hard. So the way that I usually recommend people get into it who don't have as much of a coding background
Hmm.
is this new program that has a really great community called Runway
Hmm.
MF. And I actually know some people who are working on it, and it's just, I mean, they're just trying to incorporate all these tools that are coming in. I mean, people are making all their tools pretty much open to the public. So
Mm.
we'll get a hold of this on GitHub. GitHub, you can download all these models that people are working on, and you can mix, match. You have to credit them, or you're supposed to credit them. I mean,
Right.
but that keeps the community growing too. So there's also incentive to sort of credit them, and to you also want to be communicating with these people who are making this cool stuff. So you know you don't want to be
Right.
called out by them for not giving them credit or something. That would be like you're gonna
Oh,
get
that's
no,
yeah,
no.
that's the worst thing ever. Yeah. Trust me, I understand. But
So yeah.
yeah.
Runway ML is very, very beautiful interface, just very, very simple, free download. The only thing that costs money is when you're training models
Mm.
and also running models. I think they give you like $15 to play around with it, but
Okay.
training models gets very, very expensive. So like when I do a job, um, I have to ask for pretty much like around $100
Mm.
to actually run, actually train the data sets. So, I mean, that's also kind of good because a lot of people, it doesn't matter if it's COVID-19 time, people are going to screw you over. It doesn't matter if artists are there, artists,
Exactly.
it's hard to trust anybody. But since I actually have to get like 100 in advance, like
Yeah.
that makes everything like, cool. Yeah.
So how long does it take to train the data set? Like how long is that process?
Could take a couple hours. So when you
Oh.
pay for it, you're tapping into Google's GPUs, which are like $20,000 GPUs. I mean, this is ridiculous technology that trains super fast. I mean, you can train thousands of images on a neural network so that it creates its own images based off of that from these GPUs in just like an hour. So that if that gives you
Wow.
some idea of how complex it is. I mean, for a
No,
normal
very.
CPU, like what most people have in their computers, what I have, I mean, I don't have a GPU. I would love to get one, but it's like even a cheap one is like $10,000, and it's going to be at
Jeez.
least 2-3 times as slow as I'm working with. So a lot of people in this industry will just recommend you only do stuff that's cloud based. Google's constantly updating their stuff. That's one of the things that really keeps people back from coding is that you have to constantly be updating everything. There's no, you can't just hop into your code like you want to. You have to make sure everything's up to date, or else everything could go wrong, and then you have a billion bugs to work with. So yeah, that's one of the nice things. Google keeps it updated for you, so you can just, you know, tap into their machine. You don't have to keep your
That's
machine,
awesome.
but it's up to
Hmm.
date.
That's really cool. And for our listeners out there, GPU stands for what exactly?
GPU is, I should know this. General processing unit.
General processing unit.
Yeah, I did not take computer engineering, so I'm
I
still,
understand.
I have stuff sitting in my computer, but do I know about it?
Uh,
I could be a little bit more well versed, I would say.
yeah.
But yeah, GPU is the like the overdrive CPU.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's
okay,
the
okay.
stuff that really can compute stuff fast. The CPU is like, the mini version, but a GPU contains like 1,000 CPUs. So
And, and that's pretty cool, man. All of that information is just like you said, just the speed in which the GPU or your computer system can take this imagery and create something new. Basically, it's astonishing, man. And I wanted to actually, because I don't really know too much about your community, but I'm willing to learn. But I'm interested in hearing like what is the reality of AI versus what Hollywood kind of portrays it to be, and what the layman thinks like
Yeah.
artificial intelligence is. Like,
Yeah.
what's the real on it, man? Like, what are we really talking about here as far as advancements in artificial intelligence?
That's a
yeah,
great
well, oh yeah, please keep. What were you saying?
Mhm. No, no, I was saying like, are you talking
No,
about
oh,
Marcus?
sorry,
Oh
no,
yeah,
it was breaking up a little bit. What were you saying, Marcus?
I was just saying that's a great question because
Yeah.
a lot of times in films they make AI seem different than what it really is in real life, and I always wondered myself, what it's like because I'm not too in tune with that kind of medium, but I'm always open to learning because I'm more with the film, so I see that more, and that's what my interpretation always has been like for AI. So That's why I say that's a great question because I'm finna learn something.
Right?
There you
All
go.
right, so
Yeah.
I'll just jump right in. I mean, what I think about when people talk about being scared of AI, and a lot of people have been talking about being scared of AI for a long time. I mean, I think in 2012 or 13, there was this
Hmm.
big petition that was going around with big scientists like Stephen Hawking signing it, just to be really careful about how we proceed with artificial intelligence, because, that could go wrong very easily. But I saw that and I was just like, okay, in a way, that's a valid concern right now because they would be automating warfare if they
Right.
could. I was in a lab that was working directly on that for DARPA, the defense for the U.S.
Mm.
government. So, I mean, they want that. And Russia has some stuff that's pretty close. So, but they're off the grid. We don't know. We don't know what's happening in Russia.
Right.
But,
Right.
but they have some seriously not autonomous, because we're very far from creating real autonomous robots, but some robots that are like acting by themselves that can, take in information about the allies and the enemies, about who to shoot, who to not shoot.
Right.
You give those a gun, they can aim far better than a human can. I mean,
Yeah. I bet.
that's
Yeah.
not that's going to be a slaughter. So anyways, I can understand it from that perspective. It would all still have to be human controlled. It's just we're not at that level, but I want to get to that level. So that's the interesting thing. So people are really scared of it, and at the same time, then they talk to me, and I'm like, we need to start really low level if we want to get to this like really juicy intelligence stuff, and we need to like make a model of pain. What are the basic motivators in the animal kingdom, and we need to harness
Right.
those and make a model of that. To me, that's the basic logic: is pain. We
Right.
feel we feel pain, and we try to avoid it. We try to go someplace that is the less painful. Or if it's inside, if we have hunger pains, which are very interesting, that's a motivating force that doesn't let us, be still. Like we can, be super depressed and want to lay down forever, and eventually we're gonna get hungry and, go grab a bag of chips or something. It's just like
True.
it's like these really basic motivation things, and that's what we need to be tapping into, and that's what I'm creating my robotics kit for. Here's a little.
Awesome.
Oh, that's
That's
fucking
Awesome.
awesome.
cool.
Oh
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
I'll go into this a little bit more
Please do, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
later,
that's
Yeah.
dope.
or
Definitely.
probably in just a minute. But yeah, I'm trying to make it so that we can study the very, very low level of this stuff and then build from there. A lot of the funding right now is going towards humanoid robots.
Right.
So that's the top of the food chain. That's the most evolved, or the highest evolved. I should say. I don't really. Didn't study biology that much, but you know what I mean. The
No, I know exactly what you're
the
saying. Yeah.
apex of the evolution chain.
Right.
To be working at the human level, it's like, why don't we try to understand the levels before that? It's a stepwise function. So this little guy is very, very simple. All it has are two motors
Mm.
and two omnidirectional wheels, and it's 3D printable. You can
That's
grow your
awesome.
own on a computer. So what I want to do is just make this super, and it has a little face. I don't know if you can see a little.
Got a
Yeah, I
little
can
Yeah.
see
fake
that.
mouth
Yeah.
going
Yep.
on.
That's pretty
Yeah.
See,
cool.
so these things have personality when you grow, and that is the real key to me. If we're giving people something that they can create and really feel connected to, then they're gonna do everything with it. We need that because there's this hidden trillion-dollar industry that's up for grabs. Anybody's it's anybody's game, and that's why I made this thing so that we can make a super cheap kit. I
Mm.
mean, this thing, I can probably get this down to like 20, even less than $20, probably like $15, because
Wow.
you're 3D printing this thing.
That's
I
true.
mean, you can also 3D print these things. I just happen to get them from an Australian company because when I was in college doing my first robotics project, the Hambot 1, I reached out to these guys in Australia who are making these Omni wheels, and I was like, hey guys, do you want to sponsor my robotics project? And they were just super happy to. I was in Illinois, they were in Australia, and they sent me like 6 wheels just to play with. So I mean,
That's
that
pretty
was just,
cool, man.
from then
That
on,
is
I was like,
crazy.
I want to support these guys. I mean, maybe even be a business partner eventually, but yeah, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give people this key into real intelligence, at the very lowest level. And all this thing can sense is a wall. We're going to be able to 3D print and build a maze for it. So it's going to be able to sense when it hits a wall. And that's it. It's going to be able to sense, does that wall have food? Is that a good wall? Is that a painful wall? Is that wall draining me of my energy faster? These are all things we can work with. And then you get into the basic motivation stuff. And that's what I want to just give to everybody, because we have the answers. Everybody has the answers in their heads. I mean,
No,
I can't say this enough, because these are questions we've been going on since the 50s, the 1950s. And if
straight up.
people realize this, there would be no division in any communities, because we realize that our differences are a different piece of the puzzle. We don't have any of the puzzle right now. Like, we need each other, literally. We all need each other. And if we just, focused on the good parts of artificial intelligence, whether, rather than worrying about whether it's going to murder us, then, you know,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's
Hey,
that.
David, I got a. Oh,
Okay.
my bad, Jack.
No, no, no,
I
no,
got
no.
a.
Go ahead,
I got
Marcus.
a question. Would you say like a film like Her, or what was the other one I had in mind? Really, Her more than anything. Would that be the closest thing to like reality as far as artificial intelligence, like the way you can use it, or like, oh, that's what I was gonna say, or like Alexa, like what we actually have now in the household.
um, so okay, I'm gonna run by. I have seen Her, but it was a long time ago, and there's just been so many artificial intelligence movies out lately that they all
Right,
kind of
right.
blur
Right.
in my head. But is Her the one where he was keeping that female in like a transparent box? Is that?
Yeah,
Oh, what's
that's
that?
it.
Oh, that you're talking about Ex
I
Machina.
thought that was Ex
Yeah, Ex
Machina.
Oh,
Yeah,
Machina.
Ex
Yeah.
Machina was the one about the artificial girl or woman that he was keeping in the box, and he had the guy come in, and it was
Her.
all a test.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. See that? I like that one a lot. Her is the one where the guy falls in love with his operating system, right?
Exactly.
yeah,
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 that's what it
yeah,
Okay.
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Uh, yeah. That's an interesting question, because in some ways it's not that far off, because there are a lot of companies who are working specifically with human emotions.
Mm.
So, like, sorry, I gotta get a drink of water.
No, you're good, man.
Good. Cool.
No problem. I actually need mine with me, but sorry.
Water break.
Of
But
course.
yeah, so a lot of people, a lot of companies are working with human emotions, which to me, is a little bit fake, because
Mm.
what are we
yeah.
really with if we're not building up the levels of emotion, like what emotion really means? So
Right.
it's kind of just like a topical way of thinking about it that makes sense to humans.
Right.
So, anyways, but it's still really cool, because what they can successfully do is read human emotions. So, like, if you're sad, if they detect sadness in your voice, they can be like, "Oh, why don't you try climbing a tree?" Or, something like that. Like do something that makes you happy. Listen to your favorite record. But AI is good at that, like taking in human emotions, but the actual real emotion, that's very, very far from anything we're capable of doing,
Right.
So,
No,
like,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, are we close to being able to fall in love with an operating system? Probably not.
Mm.
Just because it's just, there's just too many limitations, and I would say we're starting at too high a level for it to really be meaningful in terms of real human emotion. You know, that operating system was very intuitive, and it really like picked up on the subtleties of this guy's personality. You know, that's why he's
Right.
loved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because it was like
Exactly.
someone to talk to. It's like, you know,
Right.
I mean, that also is part of it. You know, a lot of people are just super lonely, especially in these days. You know, and I've been hearing about these COVID-19 robots that'll actually like talk you down from a serious depression or something. You
Oh
know, you
wow.
just ask them questions, and they'll spit stuff out to you like that makes you feel better. And people actually say that it helps somehow. So it's cool, but
Wow.
I don't think we're really close to falling in love with machines.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
David, I had a question for you. Do you have experience with any other kind of programming software other than Python?
Yes, I started way back when I was like, I want to say seventh grade. It with oh man, C++.
Mm. Okay.
So that's I've it's related to the very low level language C, which is uh, it's called close to the metal. So it's like the real directly, you know, the electrical stuff and making that virtual. So, which
Mm.
is really cool. I mean, I love that, but it's also very low level and technical, and I never quite learned C. So starting at C++ is like kind of the easy way. You can do most of the stuff that you can with C, except for some really complicated energy allotment stuff and like memory management. So there's some stuff you can really only do with C, pretty much, which is why Apple computers are still in Objective C. It's just like a
Oh wow.
special C that's been beefed up to be in the object-oriented world. So
Hmm.
that's yeah. I mean, it's hard to say where to start exactly, but where I did start was C++, and I didn't get it at all. It was just right over my head. I was old
Mm.
enough to do it, but it was just presented to me in such a way that it was like you can learn this if you want to. It was in a summer camp.
Okay.
That's what I was doing with
Um,
my summers, you know, learning
Hey, I
C.
get it. I understand, man.
While I'm outside running around stuffing up my knee, he playing with computers and programs.
Right.
yeah,
Hey.
It
that's
was
how you got
actually
to
fun.
do it.
I was
That's
the
how
avid
you.
Right.
Boy Scout back in the day, but yeah, I was definitely doing that for a lot of summers, like learning. I learned Flash, how to make like stick figure movies in Flash,
Oh, back
That's
in the
pretty
day, I
cool.
remember
and
Yeah.
I
Oh,
I
that's
know
I
about
awesome.
remember
so many
those.
English papers.
I
I can't
love
tell you
those.
how many English papers I got out of just by making like stick figure movies. Romeo and Juliet. Like it was like but there were a bunch of them. I was just like, yeah, can I just make a movie instead? They're like, yeah, sure. Throw a little humor in it. Everybody laughs. You get an A. It's like it's perfect.
that's a
That's
perfect
cool.
combination.
But
That's
yeah, I mean,
Well,
that was like
Yeah.
use my knowledge directly. So I would go to these camps and I would like actually pick up on stuff, except not this coding class. So this C++ class just totally went over my head, and that's also inspired me to make a really fun way that people can just grasp coding. You know, it's still really difficult. I mean, that was 20 years ago almost,
right.
and you know, it's still really difficult just to find something that really motivates you to keep learning. There's just so much to learn.
Yeah.
No, it really is. Did you want to say something, Demetrius?
I had a question bouncing off of your schooling. Like, what's your target audience for your kits or whatever? Who are you like trying to market these to? Like
Everybody. I
everyone?
I want, I want to market this to everybody. I'm making it as cheap as I possibly can.
Mm.
And what I really want to do is to go around to like communities specifically and bring 3D printers because they're not very expensive now. I mean, if I can get people behind me, a good 3D printer that's gonna print solid stuff only costs like $300,
True.
250
Mm.
if
That's
you
not
find
too
a good
bad.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. So what I would love to do is just go around to, you know, to my local communities that don't have this stuff. You know, a lot of schools already have this stuff, but some don't. So, you know, I would love to go and give these printers to people, teach them how to use it, and then give their students the ability to make these. So what I guess what you're asking, who is aiming for? I'm aiming for the people who don't have 3D printers, and I want to give them 3D printers, and I want to teach them how to use it by making this project.
Sure.
So I already have in my basement 5 or 6 3D printers that are like halfway functional. Because I mean, it's a big learning process, and that's, you know, that's part of the thing. It's going to require me to go and train these schools a lot. You know, I mean, it's easy to break them, and then you have to spend half as much as the actual printer costs to replace the nozzle. You know, stuff like that. It gets very, very expensive very fast. But if you know how to use it well and you know how to upkeep it, it's really not, you know, it's very, very attainable for way more people. And then you can, you know, all you're really buying is a couple motors, you know, you don't have to spend very much to do it. And so I want to reach as many people as I possibly can. And yeah, I'm super ready. I just have to, you know, I have to find schools to do it with.
Right.
That's a next goal. And I mean, I don't even know what schools are going to look like in the fall. So to try to
That too.
plan it is
Exactly.
like, it's a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I have a lot of schools nearby, but you know, it's going to take a lot of work to really do that. But that's, I mean, that's my passion. I want to give these tools to people. And then once I make it available, I want people like, you know, I see this as a big unifier in places that need unification. You know, a big one that comes to mind is Israel and Palestine. You know, because Israel is just in a power of, you know, is in a place of keeping Palestine like, you know, basically behind a wall. It's like they can't breathe.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same time, Israel is like, oh, we really want to help Palestine. You know, we care about these people you know, in some way. Well, my kid is going to give them the ability to actually care about them in a meaningful way, you know, to empower these communities to actually make artificial intelligence. You know, that's what I want.
I think that's a really great thing that you're doing, man. I wanted to kind of hit on what Marcus was talking about a little bit, and what Demetrius was talking about, because earlier we were talking about how Hollywood portrays artificial intelligence, and it's crazy that sometimes, you know, art imitates life, because in a way, you know, your robots are creating a sense of companionship, you know. And I wanted to also make the point that, because I know Demetrius, he's a educator, and he educates autistic children, so I feel like that can be a great, you know, sense of like companionship and company for, you know, kids that are dealing with autism. You know, I think it'd be fantastic, bro. I'm loving what you're doing, honestly.
When I think about
for real.
autism,
Keep doing it, man.
Yeah, I agree, dude. It's doing great stuff.
when I think about autism, I would love to hear what you think, Demetrius. But I think about like a strong love of puzzles.
Yes.
And to me, this is how I got into this. You know, I was at a real crossroads in my life. I had just broken up with my first girlfriend. I mean, I had started thinking about it in 8th grade when the first paper I ever got to do, like you know, pick your own paper topic. I picked artificial intelligence. So I wanted to see where the current state of artificial intelligence was. And I did this whole paper about it, and it was super fascinating to me. And from that point, I didn't really do anything with it, but I had this like cooking in my brain. So then later, I was just at this crossroads in my life. I had just broken up with my first serious girlfriend of like 3 years. It was just way too serious. I was in college. I was just walking around the outside of my building, and I found this little fence that you could jump up and you could get onto the mezzanine. It was probably a little bit illegal, but you know, I was just trying to find fun places to hang out.
Hey, we
And
won't hold it against you. It's cool. It's cool.
yeah, sorry, Illini Tower. My bad. But
Yeah.
but so I used to get up on that roof, and I would just meditate there. And it was just a peaceful spot to get away from everybody. You could kind of hear everybody below you, but it was like you were just slightly removed. And in that spot, I was just thinking, what is the greatest puzzle that exists currently? What is that? Because I want to dedicate my life to that, because I felt I had no meaning in my life.
Wow.
I was just like done. I was like, I didn't want to kill myself or anything, but it was like I just needed purpose in life. So I just meditated up there day after day, and then slowly I started piecing together, like, I want to solve the greatest puzzle in the world. That's the answers is in everybody's head.
Wow.
That's what I love.
Wow.
And that's what
Wow.
I feel is going to really motivate the autistic children. And then on top of that, when I give them the tools to create their own personality, their own robot with personality, that's just everything's going to come together. And those are the people we really need, because those are the people who have a different perspective of their own mental processes. They're,
Exactly.
they're,
Mm.
they're
Exactly.
in their own world. We don't even quite understand it. So they're probably working with lower level stuff too. If we can tap into that, we can
That'd be
understand
amazing.
Yeah.
intelligence in a totally new way. And it's also going to include these people who feel totally isolated from society. A
Yeah.
lot of times it's going to bring them to the forefront. We need these people just like we need everybody. It's just, I want people to realize that, like, everybody has their own perspective. You can't hold race, you can't hold anything against people. It just doesn't make any sense, because we all have a different perspective. You can't, even disability. It's easy to look at a disabled person. Autistic people, it's like it's so easy for people to look down on them. And if you just
Yeah.
take the time and, you know, become personal with them,
Right.
make it so that you can, a lot of it's eye contact too, because I love communicating with these people who can't communicate. It's like they're in society, and they're like apart from it at the same time. And in
Mm.
a way, they really do want to communicate. Wouldn't you say that? Deep down, even though it's really hard for them, it's like that's what they long for.
Yeah.
As soon as you give them that, they're like, okay, I can trust this person, and I can, that's when you start making
Yeah.
the leeway and start
And,
communicating with them.
Exactly.
and that's amazing that you said that, because it's a guy at my job. He's autistic, and when he first got there, he really didn't talk to people much. And, everybody was just like, yeah, he don't talk, and there's something wrong with him, and he's weird. So I was just like, let me just simply say hey to him every day. So every day I seen him, I would
Hmm.
say, hey, what's up, man? Or what's going on?
Yeah.
You all right? And he might just say, hey, and then yeah, I'm good, and then that's it. And then sometimes, he'll say little things, and not like he started to come down there to where I was at, and he'll be like, yeah, you got so and so down here, just come get it if you can, and then that'll be it. And then it got to a point where I asked him about where he went to school, because he went to college and stuff, and he opened up with that, opened up
Hmm.
about that stuff with me. And it's crazy that you were saying that, because that's really all it takes. If you just give them, a little bit of time, and just, you know, speak to them, you don't have to like, oh, what's wrong with you, or all that. Just speak to them, because sometimes that's all they need is just, hey, how you doing, so because their brain is working different than ours. So,
Yeah.
they just it's just like you said, they process that. So
Hmm.
it's amazing that you said that. And then I also have a little cousin who's autistic too. So when you say that, when you talk about that, I kind of can relate to that a lot.
Yeah, these people need people. I mean,
Yeah.
Big
that's the
time.
thing. That's what people don't understand. It's like they almost view it as they want to be separate. But I mean, I want to
No.
give this to the autistic community to be like, we need you. We want to include you. And here's a really fun puzzle to work with. I mean, I'm pretty much, I want to make my kit so it has everything in it. it doesn't need really that much, but it needs to be able to keep itself charged. That's the
Mm.
thing. Like an animal. An animal
Mm.
can move around, it can find food, it can eat it, so it can keep itself charged. That's it. My
Yeah.
robot is going to wander around a maze, figure out when it bumps into a wall. If it can get food, it's going to get food and return back to that wall again later. It's going to build a mental map about it. And it's just super simple. And I want people to start thinking about these things because it's been just way too long that we've been working on these problems. Let alone that it's $1 trillion industry. I mean, that's
Right.
like a cool thing. Like anybody could become an instant trillionaire, literally. I mean,
That's
we
true.
need this in our society, and that's cool too. And I want people to know that. Like I want people to know that I'm giving them a tool that if they use it properly, them and their family and everybody they care about is going to be set for life, like
That's awesome.
guaranteed. And so like that's cool. That's pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. And just like
Yeah.
it's just like anything else, man. It's like the like you were saying earlier about these government funded programs that want to use artificial intelligence to destroy, and to divide. It's all about where the money is allocated. You got to put it in the right place.
Yes.
Like because I'm big on education, man. Like
Yeah.
honestly, and what you were saying, it really sparked something in me because it makes so much sense. People. Uh, the way I feel about I wanted to get your insight too, but the way I feel about the educational system now, especially college, and I don't want to just make it about everybody in the field of science or whatever, but I feel like it's just so linear. Like people don't give you the opportunity to branch out and see what all you can do, especially with your degree. I know for me
Yeah.
specifically, in undergrad, I wasn't told that I could go out and work for different laboratories and become an environmental chemist or a biologist. I wasn't told that. It was either you go to school, you go to med school, become a doctor, or you teach biology.
Mhm.
That was it. And I didn't want to do that.
Wow.
And I was when I first went to school, I was ostracized by my advisors because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and just seeing what you do, I know our listeners and me and everybody here are so inspired, man, because you've really done everything your way, and that's inspiring, bro. I just wanted
That
to
is
know,
it's
like,
very.
Definitely.
it,
Yeah.
it is. So was it the same way for you matriculating through school? Did you come up with that on your own? Did somebody assist you with these ideas, or how was your like matriculation through college and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, through college, I did know immediately that I wanted to study artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
And what I did not know was that my university, it was pretty much the only university that I got into other than the one that's like 15 minutes away from my house, Ohio
Oh,
State. So I
okay.
got into these two, and there was no chance I was going to go 15 minutes away from my house, like
Gotcha.
zero chance. So I went off to Illinois, and here, I mean, when I was there, they told me that it was a top 5 engineering school. So like,
Wow.
there was like this whole other campus. It's almost like there are two campuses: the
Hmm.
LAS, the Language Arts and Sciences,
Hmm.
and the engineering. So it was just like this different world. And immediately I talked to an engineering professor, and I was like, okay, so there's no artificial intelligence program yet, which was already kind of like, really? I mean, it was, let me see, it was 2006. And
Hmm.
already I was kind of, they should definitely be working on this directly, at least. So that was kind of, I knew that a couple universities in the country did have artificial intelligence programs, and even
Hmm.
more of them do now, but it's still very, very small, the
Hmm.
number of universities that you can actually directly study artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
So, I mean, at mine, the guy who I talked to, who was pretty high level engineering professor, told me the best way to do it was to do engineering, electrical engineering, and
Okay.
psychology.
Oh wow. Okay.
Double major. And he said it was going
Wow.
to be extremely difficult. I was going to have zero life my freshman year.
Yeah.
And to me, that was okay. Like, I mean, I was super naive. It was just It was really,
I,
really terrible
we
choice.
all were at that time, man. I get it. You know, we were all
Yeah,
there.
Yep.
yeah.
But I was just all about the learning. I was like, I mean, I know that I want to do this with my life in some way. I didn't know how I wanted to do it. And then when I jumped in, that like, that made everything way more confusing because then I was taking electrical engineering classes. I was taking these super hard math classes, chemistry, physics.
Hmm.
It was like, no, guys, I just want to like make robots,
Right.
like,
Seriously, yeah. I get it.
yeah. And what was really depressing was the first electrical engineering class that I took was, first of all, it was taught on overhead projector,
Mm.
which was like in 2006 even, that was just not okay. I mean,
It's kind of whack.
it
Yeah.
was just like, I mean, at least use a PowerPoint. It was
Right. You know.
it was the only class I had that in, but it was like,
Mhm.
come on, guys. So that was
Right.
already like throwing us off. In a way, it makes sense because that was a weed out course. It was a big university. Illinois is
Dude.
like a huge state university. So that course, I later realized, is like they want to make it horrible for their
Hard.
students, which
Doesn't
is
that
just so
suck?
stupid. It's
That's
like, why
man,
wouldn't
that's
you
BS.
you know you
So,
should encourage people who are obviously interested in this topic.
Thank
You
Exactly.
you.
mhm.
Wow, weed out. That doesn't make any sense. You need to make more sections or something.
Man.
Like,
Dude,
like
I've been told that. I was told when I went, not gonna throw a school under the bus, but when I was told by my advisor that yes, these courses right here are extremely hard on purpose so we can weed out the students that don't really want to be here. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm paying all this money to be here. I obviously want to be a part of what you
That
guys
is
are offering.
that's
So
it's
Right.
outrageous.
horrible.
why are you gonna turn me away? Like that's crap.
It's the
That's so
whole
much crap.
attitude. It's the whole
Yeah.
attitude. And what really needs to change is that schools need to realize that they will grow with their students. When you
Right.
teach people things and you give them the power to make stuff with that knowledge, you grow as an institution. Everybody grows exponentially faster. If you can make it so that the only people who can do creative work in the field are people with a PhD,
Man.
you
So
know,
Man.
limiting.
that you're very, very much limiting, and that's what's happening right now. And it's just total, total flip needs to happen, and
Seriously.
that's gonna go with it. The weed out courses, because those people are all potential to make great change in their respective fields. And for the school to not realize that is a little bit like they have their priorities messed up.
It's
They
screwed
don't.
all the way up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Yeah, it
because
is.
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to cover was pretty much like the inclusivity of our area of expertise, because we're on different ends of the spectrum, but you're a robotics engineer, I'm a biologist, we're both accepted as scientists in that community, but the word itself, man, like it really makes me upset because a
Mhm.
lot of people feel like you said, you have to have a PhD or you have to have all these kind of papers in Nature magazine or be in quote unquote the hard sciences to be
Mhm.
considered a scientist. And I'm
Mhm.
like, that's whack because it's nothing but a job title, man. It's just like if I was an artist, am I any different of an artist because I, build statues instead of paint pictures?
Yeah.
We're so my thing is, why is that? And I kind of want you to harp on that too, Dimitri. Is like, what's wrong with that nomenclature? Like, because in all aspects of the word, Demetrius, you're a scientist as well, bro. So it's just like, I just want to know why that is. I don't understand why in our community, it's sort of we exclude a lot of people that really deserve to, have their have their achievements celebrated. You know, seriously. So, like, what did you think about that, Demetrius?
I mean, I think that we need to like get rid of the hard science and soft science like titles because that's so it makes people think that they're a better scientist because they're like a hard scientist where they're, a soft science. It makes them go, oh, you're a soft science. So like we're not gonna credit you or we're not gonna even gonna think about what you're doing and
Mhm.
what you're contributing. But if you're a chemist or, biologist, you're the cream of the crop. You're the ones that we're really gonna look at. And I don't like that. I think we should get rid of that because we're all dealing with science in different aspects, whether we're
Different
dealing with the
aspects.
body or chemicals or the mind or what society does with their mind. We're all studying something. So we should all be in one category.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that you can empower people by calling them a scientist. You know,
You
everybody
can.
is a scientist in their own way. You know,
Mhm.
people get I see people geeking out about bugs all the time. You know, just like or rainbows or stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's like you can make anything about science,
You
and
can.
then it gets interesting. So you can empower people by calling them scientists. You know, like even little kids who are looking through the dirt at bugs and stuff, that just empowers people from an early age. If we sort
It
of
does.
change this way of thinking about being a scientist, and everybody becomes a scientist, then it sort of changes how we look at everything. What really sort of throws me off about the word scientist
Mm-hmm.
and the whole I almost think of it as a cult of science that is
Mm.
not it's not like
That's
real
deep.
science. It's like
Mm.
this thought. It's like this pervasive thought pattern
Mm.
that kind of respects the known more than the unknown. It's like you need proof of something, or it doesn't, or you can't respect it as an idea.
Thank you. Right.
Oh,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
true.
This is the
I know
Yeah.
cult
exactly
of
what you mean.
science, and this is what people group themselves into who believe that they're scientists. That has nothing to do with science.
You're
You
right.
know, it's like just because people can read the Bible and say, "Wow, that's not real. That couldn't happen." It's like, guys, if you're not going to look at this ancient book as symbolic, you're missing the
Right.
whole point entirely.
Yeah.
Like,
You're missing
like
the whole point. You're missing the
Yeah.
point.
so like
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's real interesting to me. And so there's this bad side of science too,
Yeah.
and that's also where the like real scientists and not real scientists come into play. Like these people who have PhDs are like really high up in this system that like doesn't believe in any what do they really believe in? It's like, what are they teaching their kids also, if
Right.
they don't believe in anything that we can't see with our eyes? It's like,
Right.
guys, you gotta extend your imagination. You can't just stick with the observable. But that's what they do. It's like, if it's not observable, it doesn't really exist, and they're gonna laugh at you about it. They're gonna make fun. It's easy to like throw
Seriously.
people off, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's the worst. And to call that science, that's like an affront against the word science, which is
It
just
is.
learning about the world in a stepwise, in a way that makes sense, the
That's all it
scientific
is.
method. That's all it is,
That's
No,
all it
most
is.
definitely.
Hmm.
And it's interesting to hear this because coming from my perspective of like going to school for film and art, you know, we pretty much say both are artists, and we don't try to separate anybody from one another because we all are doing something in art. Even
hmm
people who do music, that whole department is kind of like, it's like we had a connection without even knowing it, because you always gonna meet somebody that's doing something in that field. Like I just took a music class just for like an extracurricular class to
hmm
get some credits, and I met people in that class that were in the film or they were doing art, and it's just interesting that y'all what you guys talk about like with science, because I joke all the time, but in all seriousness, I always tell people, I have a friend who's a scientist, and, because that's what he does. He works in a lab, and he's studying these things that he went to school for to do.
hmm
And with me, I've never been too big into science, because not because I didn't understand it, but it's just never a subject I got interested in.
hmm
But because of like comic books and movies, that kind of was like my gateway to science, because a lot of stuff in comic books come from science, like with the gadgets they make, how some of these guys get their powers,
Yeah.
there's little simple stuff like that. And I know it might be crazy, and people might think, well, no, that's not really science because some of that stuff is made up. But I mean, like you just said, David, what is science? You can't really put a label on it. You know what I'm saying? And I love that you made that point because it goes way beyond just the part of being in a lab and all that. It's what you come up with in your mind, and it's like it's almost like an art form because you
Yeah,
It
like you said
it's
is.
you have
like
a scientific method, and
Yeah,
just like with that in art, we have to go art and film. We have a method we have to go by as a creative process. So it's all the same because we all are using our minds to create and give this gift. So I love that point you made. That was a great point.
yeah. There's
yeah,
so much overlap between art and science. It's insane. And as soon as you connect them, you get people learning all sorts of stuff that they weren't, wouldn't be learning otherwise. Because like you were saying, you don't think about science doesn't interest you directly, but at the same time, if you think about like painting and all the chemical compositions of the paint that you're
Yep.
mixing up and stuff like that, and it's like,
Exactly. It's
and
science.
how all that stuff has to do with texture and how all
Oh,
that it just
exactly.
everything is related if you make it related, and not all of that stuff is interesting to everybody, but it's cool to make those gateways so that if it is interesting to a certain person, they can still keep their main passion and still learn about the other stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. Because even your work, David, like when I looked at it, if you remember the first conversation we had about it, I was like, oh, is that stop motion? Because that's immediately where my mind went when I saw it. I was like, oh wow, this dude is a stop motion artist. That's dope. So yeah, you know, and
yeah,
it's a situation, but that kind of stuff, like you said, art and science together, it's a universal language, man. So if it's not directly something that I'm into, it can, indirectly spark something in me and make me like, oh wow, that's really great. How did you do that? And then, I found out through, you that that's artificial intelligence technology, so it's really awesome, man. That's great stuff. Did
And
you
now with all the YouTube
mm-hmm.
stuff, you can the powers of self-teaching are so powerful right now. It's like
No, it
Yeah.
is.
every time you
Yeah.
want to
Very.
learn something, you can learn it on the internet, but it's still, it's still we need that in the academic setting more.
Seriously.
But it
Yeah.
is available to us on the internet in just crazy, mind-blowing ways. I mean, I try to spend like at least once a day, once a week, just learning random stuff on the internet, something that interests me. It could be a new way to use a program like Blender, the 3D
Mm-hmm.
program, just some new thing to model, some new skill, some new
Mm-hmm.
cool geometry to work with, anything. But if you just put your mind there like once a week, first of
Mm-hmm.
all, that's extremely good exercise for your brain. I mean, just keeping stuff fresh. And I mean, second of all, it feels great. I mean, it's just like you are, using your skills in a new way that's furthering whatever you want it to further. So,
No, that's definitely true. Did you want to mention anything, Josh? Did you have any burning questions?
yeah, definitely. So being someone that's pursuing a bachelor's degree in computer science, what would you think would be the easiest way for someone like me to grasp Python better?
Mm.
well, that's interesting because I did not major in computer science, but I wish I did. If I could go back in time, I would definitely do computer science to learn about artificial intelligence. And um, so you want to know how an easier way to grasp Python?
Yeah, like a easier way to get down the pattern, like the variables and whatnot.
First of all, my favorite resource, which I want to throw out there for everybody, is w3schools.com. Do you know that website?
Yeah, I do. It was recommended to me by my professor.
So
Cool.
I love that because it's just hands-on. You just go anything you want to learn, pretty much in like any language, is right there. But it's still very broad. There's still like a billion different concepts to learn. So in terms of like really, the only thing that I can really think of is to find projects that really interest you. So, you know, you can do pretty much anything with Python. And especially like, I mean, if this stuff interests you with GANs and neural networks, then you can do tons of that stuff with Python. And you can do that in TensorFlow too. I mean, you just have to find stuff that gets you motivated, because it's, I mean, you know, you've had a lot of like you've had a lot of computer science problems that are just, they don't appeal to you personally, right? So it's like hard to commit yourself to them, would you say?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the best way to build your skills is just to find some way to incorporate all those skills into doing something that is cool, or it can look cool. It can be, I mean, with GANs, you can do anything. You can make music with GANs, neural networks. I mean, you can branch off into so many directions. I mean, I just got kind of stuck on images, but there are just so many. And I mean, these are also made with GANs. I didn't show you these yet.
Oh wow.
This is the shape I made for the 1975 gallery.
Oh what?
Oh wow.
So what it
That's
is
That's
awesome.
cool.
is a whole bunch of these individual shapes that each grew. Like, it literally grew on a computer.
Wow.
And I can
Whoa.
send you videos of that. I was gonna send you more stuff, but my computer broke earlier in the week, and now everything is in
Oh, I'm
places that I
sorry.
don't know. So, but I can send you some videos for sure
For
of this
sure.
stuff growing.
Please
And
do. Yeah.
here's
Yeah.
a little flower.
That's dope.
That's really
That's,
cool,
You
man.
can
I
that's
like that.
beautiful.
mirror it a
Yeah, it
bunch of
is cool.
times. I mean, the stuff that you can do with this stuff, which is just mathematical equations, and that's why you can train GANs on it. You can train a neural network on it, because it just has to learn what mathematical equations result in cool shapes, and from that, it can make new cool shapes. So, so you can see it actually growing. So this is kind of like a zoetrope, if you know what those are, like those old school things that go around in a circle and the picture changes. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Like,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like a
yeah,
little
yeah,
animation thing. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
before they had TVs and stuff. So that, yeah,
Right.
this is like that, and you can kind of see it growing. I gotta figure out what direction this goes in,
Yeah. Okay. We can see it good now. Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
you can kind of see
Definitely.
it changing slowly.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's
That's
dope.
Wow,
awesome,
that
actually.
is
That's
dope.
cool.
So
That's
yeah,
pretty
I
cool.
mean, that's what all this is about, and it's making it especially cool so that it appeals to more people. I mean, I want people to have fun with this stuff so that they can learn anything with it. You can learn computer science, you can learn biology. I want people to come from all areas of everything, and you know, everybody has a thing that they can contribute. And so, I mean, that's, yeah. But if you can
But
find cool
yeah.
projects, like
Hmm.
just simple art things that make you, just give you some pleasure, you can learn anything really easily. Yeah, that's my best advice. It's kind of hard. You have to make those problems for yourself. If there's some concept that you want to work on, you know, just look at other problems that are related to that, and then make your own. And then, you know, you have all the tools. You just got to make it. You just got to arrange it in a way so that it's interesting for yourself.
Mm. Well,
Okay.
that's a great way of looking at it. And that's a good take home too. Not just with science, with anything. If you want to learn something, find a way that makes it correlate to you. Find a way that you can have some even ground with it. Make it fun, and that goes for like people that are educators and even people that are learning the material. I'm not saying for a professor you need to, stand on your head and break dance while you tell me the periodic table. You don't have to do that. But this is something, you went to school for, and apparently you enjoy it because it's your job. So, find a way to make it enjoyable for your students. That's all. Find a way to make it correlate to somebody in the class, like me or David, that's, terrible at math, Try to make it easy on
Mhm.
people like that, because there's a lot of students out there, and this is for our listeners. There's a lot of students out there that are thirsty for this material, and because they might not get it as fast as other students in the class, or they might be a little slow to the punch, when it comes to retaining the information. That doesn't mean turn them away. That
No.
means, well, let me see how I can uh mold their brain. Like, how can I get through to this student? And that's the biggest thing that helps me. And I know everybody else here feels the same way, because I remember those professors that have done that for me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Never
Most
forget
definitely.
them.
Hmm.
I
exactly.
would not.
Never
Yeah,
forget them.
and a lot of that is making it hands-on. I mean,
Making it hands on.
if you make this stuff so that you can actually see it in the real world, it just because it makes it so much easier, and that's where we're slowly starting to learn. But it's a slow process. I mean, and it's a lot of money also. It's not just that it's a slow process. What I was gonna say before about what was really depressing in my college was that when I
Hmm.
actually took my first class that had a robot in it, it was a
Hmm.
lab, and we were working in groups of 4, which already, like, it's hard for everybody in a group of 4 to see a tiny robot, to like gather around so that everybody has all the information. Like,
Right.
that's not a real good way to learn about a tiny little robot. You should kind of do that one-on-one. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's super expensive also, so I could understand that. What was even more depressing was that our robot didn't even fully function. like
Wow.
so, we had to take all of our electronics and put it in another robot, and they had to take all their electronics out and put it in every single time. It was like, this is literally the worst way that we could possibly be learning this, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunately, like, I mean, that those are money constraints, those are, all this stuff. So if I can make this kit a reality, that makes money constraints not really an issue. I mean,
Not
we
an issue.
we can make
Yeah.
hundreds of these for the same price that it costs for like a normal little robot. So
Hey, well, David, we really appreciate that, man. You got all the support from everyone here at the Square Roundtable, man. And honestly, we love what you're doing, bro. And it's been nothing but a pleasure having you on today, bro.
Yes.
Like,
Oh yeah.
seriously, like
Definitely.
Man.
it has been a treat, definitely a treat. Before we go though, is there anything that anybody wants to say, like David, for any future projects or anything you want to put in there before we depart?
um yeah, I'm gonna be working on this stuff I've been talking about periodically, just getting my robots into a kit and sending it out there and empowering as many people as I can. I mean, that's the key. If you can get people interested and working on this stuff, I mean, it's not going to interest everybody directly. I have a really good friend named Lauren, who whenever I talk about this stuff, she's like, "But I don't care about electronics. Like, there's nothing in me that does." But like, but a lot of people do, and if you can make it fun, and you can make people making their own games and stuff
Yeah,
like that, and like, you know, you can learn anything. That's also a great way. If you can make your own games with stuff. I don't know if you know
yeah.
Unity. Do you know the program Unity?
Yeah, yeah.
So that is
Hmm.
just super fun. You can mix the 3D with the coding, and you learn crazy amounts that you never would have otherwise on all sorts of topics. So that's another really fun way to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to be doing, making it fun for people to learn and getting as many people to learn as possible and having fun with it. And then, you know, at the end, we'll
Yeah.
have a good team of people who all care about something unified, who come from all walks of life.
Definitely, 100%. Well, yeah, guys, it's been great. We've had a great time today talking about different forms of, well, really doing a deep dive into AI and hearing what David's been talking about with his programs and what he wants to do for the future of AI, and that's great. It's beautiful. And yeah, honestly, for me, I'm pretty good. I don't really have anything else to say. I think we covered everything. How about you guys?
Yeah,
Oh man,
definitely.
I'm good. It was a real, honor to have you on here, David.
Definitely,
I
Yeah,
learned
Definitely.
it's a
It
something.
pleasure
I've
was.
talking.
learned something today.
Yeah, I learned some stuff too.
Yeah.
Keep pushing your dream and keep it going, dude. Like that's real
Yeah,
positive.
it
And you got
is.
all
Yeah.
support. You got all support from us at Square Roundtable. We're all on your team.
Dude, I want to keep you guys in the loop, and I mean,
100%.
you got
Yes.
good
Oh yeah.
resources for reaching people, and I mean, I want to reach as many people as we can. So thank you
Hey,
guys
man,
so much for
Oh
having me.
yeah.
It's been a
Yeah.
no
pleasure
problem.
and great to meet you all. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
Definitely,
Thank
and
you, man.
Definitely.
Thank
Yeah.
it's that time again, guys. Like any other time for my shameless promotions. So,
you.
so yes, for all our viewers out there, for all our listeners on power214.com, and for all our viewers on YouTube under the Square Roundtable, we want to thank all y'all for watching. Thank all you guys for tuning in, and yeah, you can catch us on Power 214 every Friday from 10 to 11 Pacific time, for 12 to 1 Central time, and from 1 to 2 Eastern time. So, yeah, guys, we just appreciate everything. And once again, my name is Chad Singleton, and this has been the Square Roundtable. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
D.
I'm Josh.
I'm Marcus.
David, Atlas.
And we are out.
Out.